right, here we go. Thank you all for coming out here to Thinker Studios. We have Kesmin and Carrie from Bose Construction. I appreciate you guys coming out to hang a little bit so we can talk about you and some of the things that you do over at Bose. But before we get too far down it, tell me about yourselves. Why don't we start with you?
Yeah. So a little bit about myself is I'm a farm boy at heart. I grew up on a farm, and that's where I kind of get a lot of my background from. And with that, just did, growing up, I was a 3-sport athlete, did some wrestling, did some football, was a pole vaulter in track, so just did some crazy stuff there. Ended up going to then graduating from Brookings there. Went to South Dakota State University, obtained my degree actually in exercise science, which is really crazy to some people. But my minor is in marketing and entrepreneurship. So ended up graduating there, and then ended up at Bose. Some things I like to do for fun would be like, I'm a big outdoorsman, so I like to hunt, like to fish. Like I said, some of those country boy things. I like my truck, That's where I'm at with
sound like
it.
a country song.
Exactly.
Fish in my truck. You got
Red
a dog?
dirt roads. I don't have a dog, but I looked at a puppy last night for a gun dog.
Okay, I was about to say, you got to complete the whole thing and have a dog.
Right.
Well, tell us about you.
So I am a single mom of 2 kids. So my life pretty much revolves around them. I like to say my kids are living their best life and I'm their ride. So basically just doing all that good stuff. Grew up in Brookings for most of my life. I went to school at Southeast Tech in Sioux Falls and then went immediately right back to Brookings just because I love the community and being around that town. And I've always had a really, really good soft spot for that town. So had to go right back to it.
Absolutely. Well, what brings you all to us is you both are at Bose Construction, which is a client that we work with. And we're going to talk about that and everything that's going on there, because obviously that's a lot of what we're going to talk about. But before we do that, we got to do one of our Cube questions. Okay, so we'll do one here at the beginning and we're going to do one at the end. And so I am going to give you the pick. Go ahead and pick whatever one that you want. All right, read it out.
Where would you travel for a month if time and money were not an issue, and why?
Where would you travel for a month if time and money were not an issue, and why? What a great question.
I like it. Ladies first.
I have always wanted to go to Germany. My ancestors are from there, and so I've always been my parents are very much so talk about their culture and things like that growing up. So I'd like to see that firsthand for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. I'd say the place that I would really want to go and that I could spend and travel for a month, it would be Alaska. Just the entire state of Alaska. I'm a big outdoorsman. Yeah. So I could find a lot of stuff to do up there, like whether it's chasing a bear or, chasing salmon or something like that. I think I would really enjoy Alaska. How about you?
That's tough for me. Because outdoorsy stuff, I like that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But for a month, that's the key. There's a lot of places I would go, but if I was going for a month, I would probably need to be in the city.
Sure.
For me, because I like to be involved in those type of things. And so I like to spend some time in London or, one of those other type of cities like that in Europe.
Have you been over there?
No, I have not yet.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing that. Because for me, after 2 weeks, I start to lose it. And it starts to feel like the Matrix, like it's not real. Right. If I'm on a beach or if I'm in those type of places and I need to go talk to people, I need to go to a coffee shop and do all of those different type of things. So I think that's probably one of those things. I need to give that some thought because that's a place that I need to be thoughtful about, where I would go for a month.
A month, yeah, that's a long time.
That's a long time, a month. So that's a key factor. That's cool. That's awesome. Okay, so Bose Construction. Both of you are fairly new to the organization.
Yeah, I'd say fairly new.
Let me know what you do. How you found yourselves there?
Yeah, I can start first. So I ended up finding myself at Bose Construction. It would have been a junior in college. Yep, it's junior in college. I was doing some just freelance videography work. That's just what I do on the side. Just for the football team there, the local football team, the Brookings Bobcats there. And kind of what I did is I just followed their playoff journey essentially. And with that at the time, Jason's youngest son, Jackson, was their quarterback. And so Jason was very involved with the Bobcat backers and that the organization that kind of helps promote Bobcat athletics. And so just started doing these different videos for the team. And all of a sudden, Jason reached out to my father, who's a superintendent in Brookings there, and just said, hey, I'd like to talk to your son. What is he doing? And so I just kind of went in there thinking, this is going to be, like a little part-time college gig. I know they want to get into some social media marketing stuff and some content creation. So I was like, I'm just probably going in there to make a few videos and part-time college gig. Well, I was completely wrong. I went in there and I actually met Jason and Miranda both, and they said, hey, we're looking at expanding a little bit and we need help in our marketing department. Do you think you could be that guy? Do you think you could help with some of our private sales, etc.? And just before that fall that they talked to me, I did a door-to-door sales job actually out in Ohio.
That's real sales right there.
Yeah. That's like, I got some crazy stories, man. I had guns in my face. I had moms feed me pizza. I had anything under the sun. Like after that, like I hated dogs. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Like dogs in the summertime, like a mailman is one thing, but a salesman, oh man, dogs eat that up, you know? But no, that's kind of what I did. And then they were just like, hey, what do you think of this opportunity doing sales and marketing for bows? And I was just like, let me rethink my life, I guess, because and I just ended up accepting the position from there. So
awesome.
Yeah, been growing since.
So I came to Bose just back in May, so very, very new to the organization. And I actually came from a completely different background. I didn't have a lot of HR background at all, actually. I came from being a catering manager up on campus in Brookings.
Yeah.
But long story short with that, basically our contract got bought out. So it really made me look at what I wanted to do with my life.
Mm-hmm.
It was sad because I had been there for 5 years and loved the job, loved being on campus. But my director of operations kind of sat me down after we received the news, and she's like, I want you to look at this as an opportunity. What do you want to do with your life? Like, really look at it.
Yeah.
And my time with Airmark, I got to do a lot of different roles. So part of that was filling in for a hiring manager, filling in for their HR, filling in for their marketing person. So I was able to really look back and say, I really loved to do that. I liked being there for the employees. I loved facilitating, helping them out with whatever they needed. So that's kind of what I wanted to focus on as I was starting a new chapter in my life. And that's kind of where I applied at Bose.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So there's one thing that I just kind of have to point out. And again, we're going to get deeper into Bose Construction. Jason and Miranda are siblings that are the owners of Bose Construction. We're going to talk about them in just a second. But I find it interesting that both of you had some type of connection with the SDSU Jackrabbits, and you both got the job. Is there something to that?
Come on. Yeah, I would say they're most definitely big Jackrabbit supporters. That's one of our big.
I think that's an understatement.
Right.
Yeah.
It is huge Jackrabbit supporters. That's one thing that I think is really cool about Jason Miranda, and one of the things that they empower and envision is they really support South Dakota State University, whether that's, the stadium that the Jackrabbits are playing in, we help build that type of deal, and it's like the Performing Arts Center that's on campus, we help build that. So it's just a lot of ties to that. And then, of course, they really try to have some connections with South Dakota State, and we bleed blue and we bleed yellow, and, just big Jackrabbit supporters. This past weekend was absolutely electric,
Champs. Just
Yes.
in case anybody is confused
Champs,
about that.
yes.
And just in case anybody is confused about that, yes. And then for you too.
Yeah. Also, I would like, we're both local kids from Brookings, so
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing for them too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Being local to the Brookings community is also like a big thing with them as well.
Okay, so let's talk about Bose. What does Bose do, and what do people think you do?
Sure. So what does Bose think? What do people think we do at Bose? Is the big conception is Bose just builds roads. That's it. We just build stuff, and then they just see something go up overnight. Roads are like air. You know, no one realizes them until they're not there, type of deal. So, you know, if a road's not done, someone's like, oh, what's going on here? You know?
Right.
But kind of what we actually do is we have a whole bunch of different divisions that all work together in the end to produce our final product, which is ultimately infrastructure, roads, etc. So with that being said, we have 5 different divisions primarily. And what that looks like is we have our urban grading. Urban grading is doing small parking lots, footings, built bases for buildings, etc. Mass grading is like big projects. That's our next division. So that would be like big projects like the interchange that we're building right now on I-29, or you know, doing like a mass project like for a dairy or something like that, moving a lot of dirt. The next division that we have, and this has been the backbone of Bose Construction since the beginning of 1975, which is our aggregate production side. So when people say, what's aggregate, right? Basically what aggregate is saying gravel, essentially. Yeah. That's kind of what it is. Yeah. Now there's many different types and products you can make with that, but that's kind of the backbone in aggregate production, because that's the preliminary to the asphalt actually going on the road, which I'm getting into the next division, which is our asphalt production. So we actually produce the stuff that you see on top of the road, which is called asphalt. That's the black kind of substance on top of the road. Right. And then from there, we have our paving division that actually puts down the asphalt on the road and makes it look smooth and makes it look like the road. So our kind of how it works all together then is we have our urban grading comes in, does a site prep, gets everything ready. Aggregate production, then our trucking division, which is the other division I guess I didn't say real quick there. Trucking division then brings the aggregate to the job. Okay. And then our urban guys then spread that out, make it all ready to go. Then the asphalt guys show up with the asphalt, lay that down, pave it, and then that's our final product.
That's a lot.
Right.
That's a lot.
Right.
So essentially you all are end to end.
Right.
Are there a lot of organizations that are like that do what you do?
I don't think so. I mean, there's some that just do the asphalt, but they don't do the grading. They have to sub that out, or else vice versa. They do the grading and then sub out the paving.
Right.
What does that mean for the process or for the customer to be able to have all of that in-house?
It means we get stuff done on time and we can control our schedule a little more. I'd say that's one of our biggest competitive advantages, I would say, is we can do it all. And because we can do it all, we can control the narrative and the schedule a little bit more. Like jobs that we do really well on are jobs that we are prime contractors on. So like, for example, what a prime contractor means and what Carrie was referring to as like a subcontractor is like a prime contractor says, hey, I'm going to take the work and then I'm going to line up my own subcontractors, which is things that I might not be able to do and get them ready to go. Yeah. So when you're a prime contractor, we're able to bid projects as a prime contractor because we have all these divisions and we can accommodate for that.
I got you.
Right.
So what does that mean on like the human side? You know, you got people in different departments doing different skill sets. You're trying to move people around, find people for all of these things. What does that look like?
So basically our managers, allows them they do a really good job of seeing where people can go. So say we are on a project and one of our managers gets way ahead. They know that they're waiting on paving crew. Well, hey, let's send a few guys to the paving crew and help them catch up so then we can get going again on this. It really helps continuing the project so there's not so much time in between and utilizing our own employees for other divisions to help them out. Yeah.
I mean, is there a secret sauce to this? You know what I mean? What keeps an organization like this going for so long? I mean, it's a family-owned business. There's some legacy there. There's some relationships there. What is it that allows this to work the way it does?
Yeah, I would say the thing that allows it to work the way it does and it still shows is our people. I really think one of the cool things on like the human side of Bose is, you know, we have all these different divisions. Well, we really want to develop people that, you know, are building their heavy construction career. So like, let's say, you know, you try asphalt paving and you're just like, man, I did asphalt paving that summer and I hated it. But because of what Carrie was saying, you know, sometimes you get a taste of what it's like in that urban grading side, or you get a taste of what it's like in mass grading. So then you're able to come to Carrie, and that's why Carrie does those interviews at the end of the year to, hey, you know, I did asphalt paving this year, but it wasn't really for me, but I had a chance to work in the dirt crew for a little bit. I want to go grow my career in that. Is there an opportunity for me to grow and move into that different division?
And that's pretty rare to really be able to move around where people are really trying to put you into the right spot and to get you in the right type of situation. But how does that work? I mean, because, you know, when you have so many people doing so many different things, how do you find that person that might be good? I mean, they may come to you, but are you keeping an eye on them to see if there are people who might be a better fit in other places?
Again, I kind of go off of what managers say, because I can't be out on the job sites, you know, every day, every job site. So our managers do a really good job of finding that talent and then coming in and saying, what can we do for them? Or, hey, I'd really like to grow this person. Like, let's talk about it. Let's figure out how we can do that without, you know, disrupting the schedule or, you know, making things worse for like another manager or anything like that. They do a really good job pointing that out and coming to me about it.
Yeah. Well, that's such a cool thing. I mean, when you think about so many places where people might only be there for a year or two, and people say, man, people are quitting so fast, but it's like, how long should you stay in a job that you don't like? But how convenient is it to be in a situation that's in the end that has, you know, 6, 7 different places where you might be able to fit and try things that work with your skills so that you can stay in the organization, even if a particular role is not the ideal role that you would want. Has that been able to help people grow in the organization because of that?
Absolutely. And another thing that we implemented this year is wanting people to obtain their CDLs. So we've been training them in-house. And that's just another thing that employees are taking advantage of to where they can grow their careers. Maybe they don't want to be a truck driver full-time, but being able to have that CDL and helping out for trucking is really huge for them. Yeah.
When we talk to people about value, organizations, you know, one of the things we talk about is portable skills. And it's a strange thing for people to think about. It's counterintuitive a little bit, but a lot of times the best way to get people to stay is to teach them how to leave and to give them skills that they can technically take someplace else, but they can use them to benefit themselves. And when a person is teaching you skills and you're growing and you're developing and you're getting better at things and you're learning things that are going to improve your life, you are more likely to commit those skills back with that organization because they help build you. Right. And it's your baby now. And you have some passion around it versus those jobs where I'm going to go do one thing forever to the end of time, and that's it. Those jobs are really hard to stick in, what I find. Do you kind of see that type of thing where you're at?
Yeah, I would say most definitely. Yeah, kind of what, you know, to get back to that first kind of question too, to elaborate further off of Carrie, like, you know, one of the cool things that I think is like, you know, most of the guys that we have in-house and like that are estimators that are in some of those office level positions, a lot of them started out on that labor position in the paving crew. And they've worked their way up, essentially. They've spent this summer as a labor, and the next summer they might have been running the screed. And then the following year, you know, then let's talk about a management position because I understand the full scope of the production side. And now I'm able to transfer that knowledge to the books and, you know, be a little bit better and be a little more cognizant of what the guys are actually doing out there before I make them go do that work because I have done it. You know, I'm not going to make someone do something that I wouldn't do.
That's a big deal. And that's super frustrating for a lot of people when somebody's telling you to do something, you know, they don't know how to do it or they haven't done it or they wouldn't do it. It's super frustrating. And then you have a thing that has a lot of knowledge, especially when it comes down to safety and those different type of things. You want people that really know what they're doing. You know, I was just in the office the other day, and you guys kind of have a thing set up to show like the different types of aggregate. And I was just, you know, I was talking to Carrie, and I was like, "What? It all looks like dirt to me. What's going on here?" Like it was all of these different types, and you're like, "How was any supposed to know the difference between one or the other?"
Yeah, you definitely asked the wrong person that question too.
Yes, you were not terribly helpful.
I was not. I'm still learning.
I'll be honest with you, were not terribly helpful. But like, it was like 9 or whatever different types.
Right.
And I'm like, isn't it dirt and rock? What is it? You know what I mean? So how do, like something like that even?
Sure.
Like, how does one gauge the quality of that?
Yeah. So, yeah, we're going to get into some technical stuff.
We're going to get nerdy. Okay.
I love it. So there's a few different things. So the biggest thing right now for all these different materials is we get a set of plan from engineers. Like, for example, like Manor or CDI, Civil Design, or Dakota Land Design. They say, hey, we have this building. This is what we need to do. And on those, there's a different type of aggregate is the general word to encompass all of them. That's the general word that we use.
Gotcha.
But then it might be, hey, we need 6 inches of fill on this job, but we also need 6 inches of base course. But then on top of that, we want to put like an asphalt coverage on it. So what does that mean? So there's all these different types of fills and aggregates that we can make, and then they all have different prices. And the biggest way to test that and how we stay within is what the DOT calls specifications, is called the plasticity index. So the plasticity index is basically quality testing where it's, the higher PI, the more clay-like the substance is going to be, more sticky it is, lower the PI, the more dry it's going to be. More, it's like, so like a fill is going to have a higher PI, and a fill is kind of like a sandy type material, very fine aggregates, just very, very small. Now, like a lower PI, it's not going to be as clay-like. It's not going to be as sticky. Going to be more dry rock and things like that. And what that kind of looks like is, we might have a base course that for this job, it needs to have a PI of 5. So then we have to add more clay to the rock that we're actually crushing. Okay. So then that meets those DOT specifications. Now, if we go to like another product that's like, hey, this project needs a PI of base course PI of like 3. Well, what does that mean? That means we're going to have less clay-like material and it's going to be more rock, essentially. So then we're able to. Why would I want one over the other? Right. Yeah. So how that kind of works is, you're going to want less of that clay-like substance for like something that has a lot of water. So like needs like that clay, what that essentially does is that packs it down. But then what it can do is that can get really muddy when it's exposed to water. So if I need water to drain through that substance, I'm going to have more rock because then that water is able to seep through and get away. Which a big deal is because, flooding roads and things like that. If road floods, you can't use it, So we're going to need a material underneath that aggregate or underneath that asphalt that can shed that water and get it out of the way and direct it to the drainage rather than retaining it and holding it underneath the road. Because then if it holds underneath the roads, then the water freezes, thaws, messes up what you see on top. Wow. Yeah.
Like I said, you asked the wrong person.
And here I am thinking it's just dirt.
Right. There's a whole bunch of different things. Yeah, a whole bunch of different things.
It's some expensive dirt. Well, tell me about the future. You know what I mean? Because these types of jobs are getting more and more challenging to get the right people in, to keep the right people, and all of those type of things. What are you all doing to try to stay ahead of the game, to take on the future and all of these challenges that are happening right now?
Sure. I would say just for starters is the biggest thing in construction is you need 3 things. Always, it seems like you need the leadership, you need the people, you need the equipment, and 4. I'm going to say you need the material, equipment, people, leadership. All those 4 play hand in hand. So the biggest challenges and the biggest thing is developing people and having people that don't need as much leadership, that are okay with taking some of those leadership roles, but also confident in their abilities to run those pieces of equipment and having the equipment for the people. Yeah. And so to stay ahead of that, what we're trying to focus on is just a little more people development, with some more training, over implementing that. Things like Carrie mentioned earlier with our CDL program, getting that going, because right now that is not cheap for guys to get. Right now it's costing guys $5,000 to go to a tech school to, go get their CDL. Or at Bose Construction, we recognize that's a challenge for people, but we also recognize in the industry that it's hard to find a truck driver. It's hard to get CDL drivers. So why not help the industry by training our own drivers and working with someone so they don't have to pay that $5,000 up front and they can go develop their career. Yeah. So it's just things like that, implementing and finding those ways where we can, one, develop people, but then when you develop people and you have those leadership skills, it directly translates to production and efficiency. So then you have more cash flow, free cash flow to then get the new equipment, to get the new stuff that people want to operate and they want to be in. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, definitely. Going off what Kesman says, I definitely believe investing in our current employees with the training and with opportunities for them to grow helps with that retention. And when you have experienced people season after season, it will definitely only help productivity instead of getting all new people every season, starting over and things like that. So just investing in our current employees as well.
What do you think the future of the industry is? Like, if you vision out 5, 10, 15 years, what do you think the future of the industry is?
Busy. Busy, very busy. What's really cool about the heavy construction industry is we have different markets, right? And, everyone has different markets, but we have a few different ones in the saying of we have government markets, we have private markets, and then we have some other type of entity over here. So what I kind of mean by that is like, we're always going to have work. There's always going to be jobs out there. The state is always going to put projects out there, DOT, infrastructure products, because, that's your tax dollars at work. That's my tax dollars at work. That's Carrie's tax dollars at work. And so all that money gets pooled into the Department of Transportation. They're like, hey, we have to look at this road. Well, South Dakota, as we know, is only growing. There's more people coming to this state. And when more people come to a state, what do you need?
Buildings.
Infrastructure.
Stuff, road.
Infrastructure to keep up with people living, living accommodations, travel accommodations, all those things. So as South Dakota grows, that industry and that market is going to continue to grow because we have more taxpayers. So that's the public side. Now, the private side, that's another market where, we're working privately with businesses and things like that. And so we, at Bose Construction, our model is we like to stay within a local market, so about 60-mile radius of the town. And what's really cool about the Brookings community is we're in a community that's growing. And it's going to continue to grow because we have awesome organizations like South Dakota State that we mentioned. We have awesome organizations like Daktronics and 3M, and we have Falcon Plastics, and all those organizations are going to grow and continue to develop. And with that, they bring in more people. So more people means more infrastructure, more market, and then some of these private developers all of a sudden that are trying to develop, this area. I have a field over here that I need to turn into a residence for, to accommodate housing. No, then they're gonna call a heavy contractor, like Bose Construction to start that initial groundwork. So I see it growing. I really don't see it getting any smaller. The only thing that I could see maybe getting smaller is it's a balancing act. You're private and you're in your public entity. Sometimes those private entities, they don't have as much of that free cash flow depending on what the economy's like. So then you rely a little more heavily on your public side. But then sometimes the public side might be down, but the private side might be up. So it's just a balancing act of those two, I'd say.
So what do you think from the people side of it? What do you think the future looks like from the people side of it?
From the people side of it, I just think the groundwork that we're laying down now and getting started with the trainings, the interviews that I do with them, asking them what they want to actually do with their career, will only build upon that, and maybe get out there and give Bose the reputation that they are for their employees, not just the work. They're not just laborers there to do a job, but that they're people that we are caring about.
Yeah. Being that this is a family business, as we start to ramp down, what does the legacy mean for this? When I say that word, what does that mean for an organization like Bose? Legacy.
They definitely have the reputation in town since they've been around for so long that other companies don't have, and it's only getting better. When you think of Bose out in the community, even before I started there, it's always been just a good reputation of, like, it was handed down. We worked with Lyle, now we work with Jason and Miranda. So just the reputation that they have is really good.
Yeah.
Legacy, I'd say, is Bose Construction's goal is to continue to grow, continue to develop, and, expand to the point where we can provide more to customers. Right now, there's been instances where it's like, we already have so much and we can only do so much. But we still have some other people coming with us with work saying, hey, can you do this? Because, we know you've been around. We know you guys have done great work, but we're having to turn away some of those smaller projects that, aren't as appeasing and great for the, they're still great projects, but they're not as, high profile projects as some of these other ones that we do take. And so the idea is developing a heavy construction company that can meet all those needs. And so the legacy is, one, I think the legacy for Bose Construction is help people develop a heavy construction career. Two, help our veterans. That's a big thing with us. That's a huge thing with us. As Jason is an ex-Marine. His son right now is currently in the Marines. So that's a big thing.
I don't know if you could be an ex-Marine.
But you know what I mean?
I do.
Right. So, there's that, and, helping those veterans, come back, because some of those guys don't have opportunity for employment, but a lot of those guys were great, in the heavy construction side because they've operated heavy equipment in the military. You know, so that's the legacy. And the other legacy is, you know, we want to help Brookings. If Brookings doesn't grow, we don't grow. So with those three things, I would say that's leaving that legacy.
I love that, you know, because we feel that way about Sioux Falls. South Dakota really as a whole, but particularly Sioux Falls, we hyper-focus on our community because your return is 3, 4, 5x.
Oh, yeah.
Because the work that you do gets multiplied by the people you get to touch and the relationships you get to build. And that's what I care about, you know what I mean? I want to take care of us. It's so interesting. We all get caught up in what's happening in the world, national politics, global politics, but sometimes you got to do the work in your neighborhood. You got to do the work in your community and make it happen.
Right.
You could be arguing with people on Twitter, or you can get in your community and make it better, build it, develop people. And when you think about an organization like Bose, the things you help build,
right,
the people you've helped develop, the infrastructure you help establish, you really have literally been building a community.
Right.
And that's such a dope thing.
Right. And I think I would just challenge other people too, you know, when it comes to that community side, like you said, bring it in your backyard. Get involved with like your local and city governments, you know, get involved with those local level things that you can have a direct impact at. You know, I think sometimes we kind of forget about that. And you said, you know, we get caught up with what's going on in the world, and we forget what's happening right in front of us, you know, so get involved in that stuff. I think that's another thing that Bose really tries to do is stay involved within your community. How can you help?
I love it. We're going to get to our final cube conversation before we get out of here. You get to pick this time, sir.
Ooh.
What do you got? Oh, you was okay.
We're going to the edge of the deck.
This isn't his first rodeo.
Edge
He knows
of the
how to
deck.
pull from the middle.
I played blackjack last week, so just kidding.
Okay. He's not kidding.
Oh, if you could go back 5 years and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, man,
Oof,
that's hard.
That's deep, yo.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Not for me.
No.
Lay off the carbs. That would have been my advice. That would have been my advice that I would give myself 5 years ago. Full show.
So I think for me, the biggest piece of advice that I would tell myself is do what you love and not what you think you love. And what I mean by that is I grew up with this idea. I was a 3-sport athlete. I was like, man, I'm going to be a chiropractor. You know, I think that's my calling. I know that's my calling. Like, you know, and I went through that whole narrative always thinking like, hey, this is what you're meant to do. Like, this is what you're going to do. Well, I also knew that I loved entrepreneurship. I also knew that I loved business, and I knew that I loved touching people through business in that way. And I thought chiropractic was my only outlet to do so.
Oh, yeah.
But with that, from just some internships and experiences, I learned that I can positively touch people's lives by not being a chiropractor and still make a difference. That was my biggest thing, is just, you know, I thought I love this chiropractic thing. No, what I actually love is I like the business side, the marketing side, and connecting with people. Well, there's other avenues, and this marketing role for me and this, you know, helping out with the business side and the sales side, that's rewarding for me because I realize I'm helping someone by filling their need, and I'm making their life better because I'm able to provide for their need.
That's really, really good advice. Is that some people get caught up in a particular profession as a way to do the thing that they want to do generally. You know, you want to help people, you want to make music, you want to do all those other type of things. And sometimes you get fixated on one thing that you see that does that, but there's a lot of things that allow you to do that might bring you a little bit more joy, it might be more accessible for you. How about you?
For me, I think it would be, this sounds really dumb, but it's not that serious. Like, tell myself it's not that serious. I had horrible like work-life balance. I worked like no other and had a horrible like life balance with that. And what did it get me? I'm not even in that industry anymore.
Yeah.
So, and I really had to think about what made me happy, and now I'm doing it. So I thought when I started that job 5 years ago that this was it. I'm going to take this and roll with it until I can't anymore. And I worked myself so hard, and it didn't, and now I'm like nowhere near that at all. So it's not that serious.
Yeah, that's dope. That's some really good advice from you too. I mean, lay off the carbs is good advice too. But that's a big deal. You know what I mean? Like, we're working to be happy and enjoy our lives. And that's really what the power of culture is to be able to say, how do we have the best experience on this ride that we on? You know what I mean? And we're not all doing it to push papers and punch numbers and just to get money. We're doing it to be happy and have a quality of lives. And it's dope when you can work with a place and with people that want to help you do that.
Right.
So I appreciate you both, Carrie, Kesman, Bose Construction. Thank you so much for coming to spend time with me. I appreciate you. And until next time, make sure you like, subscribe, share, hit the button, the notification icon to make sure that you get all of this content ASAP. And make sure you follow us on all of our socials at Think 3D Solutions, or you can also find us at Do Work Better. We'll see you next time. I love the double point. The double point, I like that. Very good.